Have you ever paused to really listen to the way you speak to yourself? I'm not talking about the loud declarations we post on social media or the fleeting affirmations we scribble in journals. I mean the private, quiet dialogue, the one that runs constantly in the background of your mind, that voice, that script, that narrative. Most people underestimate the power of their own self talk. But let me tell you this, your words are not just echoes in your mind, they are instructions, commands. And over time, they shape your perception, your emotions, your actions, and eventually your reality. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." And how we react, how we feel, how we respond, how we behave is first filtered through the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what the world is. Those stories are written in language, words, repeated often enough, they begin to form the architecture of your internal world. So, psychologists have shown that self talk influences everything from how we perform under pressure to how quickly we recover from setbacks. But what's even more profound is that the brain does not always distinguish between what's real and what's repeated. Let that sink in. If you keep telling yourself you're not good enough, not ready, not lovable, not capable, your brain begins to accept that as truth, regardless of external evidence to the contrary. You begin to interpret life through the lens of that belief. You filter opportunity through it. You filter people's behavior through it. You filter your worth through it. Now imagine the reverse. Imagine if you started telling yourself a different story, one rooted not in fantasy but in possibility. I am becoming stronger. I am learning. I am healing. I have value. At first, it may feel false. That's okay. We don't change the narrative because it feels true. We change it because we want it to become true. That's the difference between reacting to your thoughts and directing them. Language is not passive, it is generative. And if we truly understood the power of what we repeatedly say to ourselves, we'd become far more intentional with our inner vocabulary. When a child hears, "You're so clever," again and again, it wires their mind to see themselves as intelligent, as capable. Similarly, when someone grows up hearing, "You're such a failure," that voice often doesn't leave them when the speaker does. It becomes their own. But here's the liberating truth: you can rewrite the script, you can choose new words. It won't happen overnight, and it won't be easy, but it is possible. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, proves that repeated thought creates new pathways, new patterns. And those patterns create new behaviors. So, yes, it begins with words, but it doesn't end there. Words become beliefs, beliefs become habits, habits become identity, and identity, that becomes your destiny. Don't wait for someone else to give you permission to see yourself differently. Don't wait for life to validate your worth before you claim it. You must say it first. You must say it enough. You must say it until it feels natural, until it becomes who you are, until the external begins to reflect the internal. Now, I know there are people who might say, "Isn't this just delusion, just positive thinking?" No, this is not about lying to yourself. It's about aligning with your highest self. It's about understanding that you have a say in the construction of your inner world. And if you do not speak with intention, you will default to whatever voice has been loudest in your past, whether it belonged to fear, doubt, or someone who never saw your worth. So when I say tell yourself this until it becomes reality, I don't mean wishful thinking. I mean conscious authorship. I mean becoming the narrator, not just the listener, because if you're not writing the script, someone else is. The mind is listening every moment, every day. The question is, what story are you telling it? And maybe the real question is, what story are you ready to believe? Let that be the beginning of something new. Let's talk about repetition. Not in the way we usually dismiss it, boring, monotonous, robotic, but in the way it quietly becomes the foundation of everything we are. Repetition, in its essence, is the mechanism by which we become anything at all. It is not glamorous, it's not exciting, but it is deeply transformational. You brush your teeth every day, not because it's thrilling, but because you understand the consequence of not doing it. The same principle applies to who you are is, in large part, what you've repeated mentally, emotionally, and behaviorally over and over again. You are the sum of what you've rehearsed. When you say something to yourself once, your mind hears it. But when you say it 100 times consciously, deliberately, it begins to believe it. That is how the subconscious mind works. It's not persuaded by logic or intention alone. It responds to what is familiar. Familiarity breeds comfort, and comfort gives rise to belief. That's why repetition is not just a mental trick, it is a tool of transformation. Think of a musician practicing a piece of music. At first, they stumble through the notes. It sounds awkward, unsure, fragmented. But with time, with enough repetition, something begins to shift. The hands move with grace, the notes become a language. The chaos turns into coherence. Eventually, the music becomes a part of them. It flows without thought, without hesitation. The musician no longer plays the music, they embody it. That's what repetition does to identity. At first, telling yourself, I am confident or I am worthy, may feel unnatural, like a lie whispered in the dark. But each time you repeat it, you reinforce a new possibility. You carve a neural path through your mind. And one day, without warning, you wake up and realize you're no longer pretending. You're no longer performing the role, you've become it. Science backs this up. In psychology, there's a concept known as self-schema. It refers to the beliefs and ideas we hold about ourselves that shape how we interpret the world. But what's remarkable is how fluid those schemas can be. They are not fixed. They are shaped by experience, but also by repetition. If you feed your self-schema with consistent, empowering language, over time it shifts. Your brain starts collecting evidence that supports your new narrative. You begin to see yourself and the world through a different lens, but this only works if you're consistent. And this is where many people give up. They say, I tried saying affirmations. I told myself I was strong for a few days, but I didn't feel any different. And I want to say, of course you didn't. That's like going to the gym twice and wondering why your body hasn't changed. Change is never the product of intensity, it's the product of consistency. You don't change your identity through a single moment of inspiration. You change it through repeated alignment with who you want to become. There's a philosophical beauty in this too. Because repetition reminds us that we are not trapped in who we were. We are everyday becoming. Becoming through what we choose to repeat, becoming through what we choose to say, becoming through what we refuse to let go of, even when we see no immediate result. So yes, tell yourself this until it becomes reality, but more importantly, tell yourself this until it becomes familiar. Until your body recognizes the words as its own, until your choices begin to reflect them, until your life starts echoing back the very things you once only dared to whisper in the quiet. You will be tempted to stop, you will feel ridiculous, you will question yourself, but I urge you, keep going. Because repetition isn't about convincing the world, it's about conditioning the mind. You're not trying to fake something. You're trying to become someone. And becoming takes time. There is a quiet power in choosing your words, repeating them with conviction, and trusting the process. This isn't wishful thinking. It's psychological reconditioning. It's inner engineering. It's deliberate self-construction. You are always rehearsing something. The question is, are you rehearsing your limits or your potential? The choice, as always, is yours. There's a moment in everyone's life where we're asked to believe before there is any reason to, before the results, before the applause, before the evidence. And that's where most people hesitate because we've been taught to trust what we see, not what we sense, to believe only what can be proven, not what can be imagined. But here's the paradox: reality doesn't lead belief, belief leads reality. The way we interpret life, what we think is possible for us, what we think we deserve, is all filtered through belief. Not truth, belief. And belief is not something we simply have, it's something we build. It's an act of construction. And like all acts of creation, it starts in the unseen. That means you don't wait for the external world to show you who you are. You decide first, then build a life around that decision. You want to be more confident? You don't wait until you feel confident. You act, speak, and think as if you already are. Not because you're faking it, but because you're investing in the version of yourself you're becoming. This is what psychologists call self-fulfilling prophecy. The idea that your expectations of yourself shape your actions, which then shape your outcomes, which reinforce the original belief. Yeah. But let's go deeper. Your brain is wired to look for patterns that confirm what you already believe. It's called confirmation bias. If you believe the world is against you, you will only see rejection. If you believe people can't be trusted, your mind will highlight every betrayal. But if you believe you are capable, you'll start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles. You'll interpret failure not as proof that you're not good enough, but as part of the process that shapes you. That's the power of belief. It doesn't just color your perception, it defines your experience. And this is where most people get stuck. They say, once I get the job, then I'll feel worthy. Or once someone loves me, then I'll believe I'm lovable. But that's not how transformation works. Worthiness isn't awarded. It's assumed. Confidence isn't granted. It's generated. Belief comes first. Or even the greatest achievers in history, scientists, artists, visionaries, they didn't start with evidence. They started with belief. A belief that something was possible, even when it looked impossible. And that belief gave them the stamina to endure rejection, the clarity to keep creating, and the courage to keep going when the world said, "You're wasting your time." They saw what didn't yet exist, and because they believed in it long enough, the world eventually caught up. You don't need the world to believe in you first. That's one of the greatest misconceptions we carry. You only need you. Because when you move through the world with quiet conviction, you send a different signal. Not one of arrogance, but of clarity. Not one of desperation, but of direction. People respond to that. Life responds to that, but belief doesn't mean you never doubt. It means you choose your faith over your fear, again and again. It means you stay loyal to your vision, even when results are absent. It means you become the kind of person who walks toward their future with eyes wide open, not because they know what will happen, but because they've already decided who they'll be. There's a beautiful strength in that kind of belief. It's not loud, it doesn't need validation, it's rooted, it's internal. And it creates a kind of gravity where reality begins to reshape itself around your sense of identity. So if you want to change your life, start by changing what you believe is possible for you. Speak it, repeat it, envision it, and then live like it's already true, not recklessly, not blindly, but intentionally. Let your actions reflect your belief, not your fear, because your belief is a blueprint. And your reality is always under construction. Don't wait to see it before you believe it. The moment you decide to change, truly change, is rarely accompanied by fireworks. More often, it's quiet, uncelebrated, invisible to the world. But that moment, if honored with persistence, can reshape the entire trajectory of your life. And yet, that's where most people fall short, not in the dreaming, not in the declaring, but in the continuing. Because the truth is, nothing truly transforms without persistence. It is persistence that tests your sincerity. It's persistence that reveals whether your desire is just a temporary high or a grounded commitment to becoming someone new. There's a misconception that if something is meant for you, it will come easily. That if it feels hard, unnatural, uncomfortable, it must not be right. But discomfort is not a sign you're on the wrong path. Discomfort is the cost of growth. It's the price of reprogramming, of letting go of old identities that have calcified over time. And it's exactly at that point where the new thoughts feel foreign, where the affirmations feel forced, where nothing in your environment reflects the future you're speaking into existence, that most people stop. They say, it's not working, but what they're really saying is, it doesn't feel real yet. And they walk away, not realizing they were standing at the threshold of change. Your subconscious mind doesn't yield easily. It is layered with years of repetition, emotion, memory, and habit. Trying to override that with a few days of positive self-talk is ... like planting a seed and walking away because the tree didn't appear overnight. The seed was working. You just didn't stay long enough to see it grow. Think of how the ocean shapes the rocks. Not with a single wave, but with countless waves, relentless, soft, and constant. That's how you shape your identity. You keep showing up, you keep saying the words, you keep choosing the new story, even when the old one still echoes louder. There is an elegance to that kind of persistence. It is not loud, it doesn't need to announce itself, but it's powerful because it teaches you to anchor yourself, not in what you feel temporarily, but in what you know is possible long term. And that shift from emotional reaction to conscious repetition is the mark of someone who has chosen to become. There's also a deeper philosophical dimension to persistence. It reveals what you value, what you're willing to stand for, what you're willing to repeat, not just when it's easy, but when it's mundane, frustrating, or unrewarded. That's where the transformation actually happens, in the hidden moments where no one is watching and there's no applause, and you still choose the new identity anyway. And let's be honest. It's hard. It's hard to speak strength when you feel broken. It's hard to affirm worth when rejection still stings. It's hard to declare change when your environment hasn't caught up yet. But that is the work. The work is not in convincing others. It's in staying loyal to the version of yourself that only you can see, for now. Because when you persist through discomfort, something remarkable happens. Your nervous system begins to adapt. Your mind begins to soften toward the unfamiliar, and slowly what once felt like pretending becomes the new normal. You start behaving differently, reacting differently, choosing differently, and the world eventually responds. This is why I always say, don't stop when it feels fake. Keep going, especially when it feels fake, because that's the signal you're moving beyond your old story. And growth will always feel unfamiliar. You are not failing when you feel awkward or doubtful. You are evolving. Remember, change isn't a single event. It's not a speech, a breakthrough, or a one-time decision. It's a process of becoming, and that process demands repetition. Not once, not twice, but until it becomes the way you think, until it becomes the way you live, until it's your reality. So the next time you feel like quitting, ask yourself, Am I stopping because it's not working, or because I haven't stayed long enough for it to work? And if you can answer honestly, keep going, because persistence is not just the path to transformation. It is the transformation. Stay long enough for the seed you planted to meet the sun.